Pink coin challenge levels are a staple in Mario Maker 2. They're perfect for players because they let us save our progress each time we complete an area, which essentially gives us more than 2 checkpoints. We finish a room, get a pink coin, go through 2 checkpoints, and this saves our pink coin progress so that we can die any number of times and we don't have to redo any previous rooms. But one major issue is that once you get all the pink coins, it turns into a key, and if you accidentally go back into a challenge room and die at any point, you start back at the last checkpoint with no coins and no key, basically having to start the entire level over. This is awful and defeats the entire purpose of being able to save your coin progress. So one thing you may have seen in many of these levels is a pink coin near the Keydoor. Creators call this a safety coin because in the event that a player finishes all the challenge rooms, they will still have one more pink coin to get near the door before they can get the key. This way, if they accidentally die after completing all of the rooms, but before getting the safety coin, they'll resume at the checkpoint with all their coin progress saved. The major problem with this setup is that you can't have a final boss or final challenge after the Keydoor because, like I said earlier, if the player happens to die after getting the key, they lose the key and all coin progress, essentially forcing them to start the entire level over, which is an awful experience for the player. So is there any way to give the player one last boss battle or final challenge after entering the Keydoor, but allow them to keep their key progress if they die? It turns out there actually is, based on something recently discovered. A player by the name of Comex has discovered an interesting characteristic of the pink coin, and Steve made a video showcasing one aspect of it in a more simple level. But this unique characteristic completely solves the problem of losing your progress when you die after getting all the pink coins in these coin challenge levels. Here is a modified version of the level I showed before. As we can see here, the player starts the level by entering a door, and there's an odd-looking contraption to the left, and he gets a coin and a checkpoint immediately. Over here by the Keydoor, we see a strangely placed key that we can't get to because of this solid blue block. We'll get to that in a second. So the player is able to go through each of the challenges, collecting a coin at the end of each challenge and saving their progress with the checkpoints. If they die at any point, it's no big deal, their coin progress is saved. Then we finally get all the coins, which gives us the key, and we enter the Keydoor. We are immediately given a stack of 2 big hammer bros, which are pretty tough to pass if you don't go immediately, and unfortunately we die. Now normally this would be awful for a pink coin level because you would lose all coin progress after getting the key, but you wouldn't be able to resume the level with the key. But in our level, if you die after getting the key, look over here, magically the solid block is no longer solid. We're able to get the key and re-enter the Keydoor and try again at that last challenge. And if we die some other dumb way, no problem at all. We resume with the checkpoint with the block not solid and we can get the key again, and finally pass the last challenge to beat the level. The ability to do this is thanks to the special contraption here and how you first enter the room. Now, before I can explain how this level works, I have to go over a few things about entity limits. First, with this setup, we've put munchers in each of the 3 blocks, as well as placed 80 munchers above and 20 pals to the side. As you can see, the game will not let us place any more enemies or items because we've reached the entity limit of 100 entities. This means that even though we've placed a muncher in these blocks, if we hit them, they won't spawn. We would have to remove one of these entities, like a POW, and then the muncher will spawn. We could have also removed a muncher from above and kept the POW so that we have 99 entities on screen, and then the muncher will spawn from the block. One interesting thing about entities is that if they're far enough off screen, the game does not include them in the 100 entity limit. So here, when we move the POW far enough off screen, it sort of doesn't exist from our perspective. So even though we have 100 entities in the level, there are only 99 on screen, so the muncher can spawn from the block. But now that we have 100 entities on screen, the other 2 blocks won't spawn anything. Now let's put that POW back and talk about one-ways. You can place up to 100 one-ways even after you've placed 100 entities. However, for some strange reason, the game counts these towards the entity limit. As we can see here, we delete a muncher and add a one-way, and sure enough, since that counts as 100 entities, no muncher will spawn. Here's the weird part about one-ways. Remember how the POW wouldn't count towards the entity limit if it was far enough off screen? That doesn't apply to one-ways. They can be absolutely anywhere in this subworld, but they will count as an on-screen entity, so when we go back here, we have 100 entities according to the game, so the muncher in this block will not spawn. Now let's delete this one-way and talk about doors. A door takes up one entity like a one-way does, except the door can't be too far off screen, kind of like the POW from earlier. As an example here, with 2 doors on screen, we would have to remove 3 munchers to put the entity count at 99, which would allow the muncher to spawn. But if we add just 1 muncher, the entity count is at 100 and a muncher will not spawn from the block. Like I said, if the door is far enough off screen, it's not included in the entity count. So moving this Keydoor off screen far enough puts our on-screen entity count at 99, so a muncher will now spawn. To summarize this, the game will not spawn an entity from a block if there are 100 entities on screen. Items, enemies, and doors all count as entities if they are on screen, and one-ways count as entities no matter where they are in the current subworld. If you followed all of that, I congratulate you. There's still one more thing to cover, and then I'll explain how the pink coin level works. So, pink coins don't count towards the entity limit. Here I placed 5 pink coins and I have just 1 muncher missing, so the current entity count is at 99. Meaning I can spawn a muncher from a block. I could even grab a few of the coins, and it still doesn't affect when I go to hit the block, the muncher will spawn. Now here's where things get weird. When you touch a pink coin, there's an animation for about half a second before it disappears. For some strange reason, whenever this animation is happening, it counts as an entity. So during this brief period of time when we have 99 other entities and the coin animation, the total entity count is at 100 and nothing could be spawned from a block. I can show you this by placing the pink coin under the block. When I jump, I hit the block during the animation of the pink coin, which means the entity count is 100, so nothing spawns from the block. But then once the animation is over, the entity count is back to 99 and I can hit this block next to it and the muncher will spawn. I could even place 2 coins under the 2 blocks, and both times I hit the block, it's during the coin animation, which makes the entity count 100, so the munchers won't spawn. But when I hit the 3rd block, it's not during a coin animation, so the entity count is 99 and the muncher will spawn. Really crazy stuff, I know, but this is the reason for the magic of our level. So how does this work? Well, off screen I've placed 90 one-ways, as well as the one-way here, and remember from earlier that they count towards the entity limit, so on this screen we currently have 91 entities. Then we have a muncher, a bomb, a spring, 4 doors, and a key. That gives us 99 total entities on screen. This contraption here begins with a muncher above a note block with a 1 gap space between, which is important, and there's a muncher inside of the note block. Remember back before that if there were 99 entities on screen, the blocks would generate a muncher, but then if there were 100 entities, nothing would generate. That's what's happening here. We begin the level by going through the door, and the spring is set up with a semi-solid behind the door. In the time that it takes Luigi to fall and bounce up to the pink coin, the current entity count is 99, and the muncher hits the note block, which generates the other muncher to destroy the bomb, which turns this block solid. And because of this setup, we will always get the first pink coin before hitting the checkpoint. So this coin will never be here if we die and resume from the checkpoint. Except in one scenario. If we get the key from all the coins and then die at any point after, we will resume from this checkpoint and all pink coins will be back in their original places. But this is where the magic happens. Remember from before that when this screen loads, there are 99 entities, and so the muncher is able to spawn out of this note block. Also remember that a pink coin during its animation will count as an entity. When you die after getting a key from the coins, all the coins reset to their original position, so when you start back from the checkpoint, you will drop directly onto the pink coin, which begins its animation and puts the entity count at 100. While it's at 100, the note block gets hit, but nothing will spawn. This only works because the note block is hit during the coin animation. As you can see, when the note block is hit, nothing spawns from it, which keeps the switch on and keeps this blue block off. This allows you to easily get the key anytime if you've died after getting all the coins. The vital thing to remember is that the only time this coin will be below you at the checkpoint is if you die after getting the key from all the pink coins. Since the only thing between you and the key is the solid block, obviously this setup is prone to some major cheese if you have a challenge room with on-off switches, so all you need to do is make sure there's no way to be in this main room with the blue block turned off. The best way to do this is to have solid red blocks covering the exit pipe or the door in the challenge room and a switch nearby to force the player to make the blue block solid before they can leave the room. One thing to note is that even though my setup here has 91 ways hidden off screen, your level will likely be much more complex and may have one ways in some of the areas of the same subworld. For example, if I decided to add 3 one-ways to this room, I would need to remove 3 from the off-screen one-ways to keep the total one-way count to 91. So how can you check to make sure everything is working properly? You need to test 3 different scenarios. The first is the initial door entry to make sure the block turns solid. That's easy to check. The second is placing the player right above the coin to simulate what would happen if they died after getting all the coins. If the block is turned off, then you have it set up right. And then the last check to do is just move the pink coin away briefly and start at the checkpoint and make sure the block turns solid. It'll turn solid because you'll have 99 entities, but you won't be touching the coin to start the animation, so the muncher in this note block will get generated, which causes the block to turn solid. If any of these 3 checks fail, then you likely just need to add or remove some one-ways. Remember that doors and keys also count toward the entity limit if they're on screen and even if they're a little bit off screen. There's actually one awesome perk about making a level with this setup. Not only do you get the opportunity to give the player one last challenge after getting all the coins, but when you normally do an upload for these kind of levels, you have to beat them all in one go without dying 3 separate times because of the beginning and each of the 2 checkpoints. However, because one of the checkpoints starts you right above the pink coin, when you do the check that starts you here, it'll grab the coin and act as it would if the player got all the coins and then died. So essentially, you're able to go and grab the key and go through the Keydoor as if you had gotten the coins and died. So when you're uploading, don't be alarmed when you see this. All this means is that you only have to clear the level in full twice without dying instead of 3 times. So not only does the level benefit the player, but it also benefits you by saving you a little time during the upload. Well, that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see some of these kinds of levels out there since they're a great and safe way to give a player one last final boss fight or challenge after getting all the pink coins. If you have any questions about the setup, leave a comment and I'll be glad to answer it. I'm sure some of it may have been confusing, so I'll be reading the comments to try and answer any problems you may have. If you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like, and if you want to see future Mario Maker 2 videos of all kinds, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.